Blackstone Audio presents Rachel's Holiday by Marian Keyes. For Tony. 1. They said I was a drug addict. I found that hard to come to terms with. I was a middle-class, convent-educated girl whose drug use was strictly recreational, and surely drug addicts were thinner. It was true that I took drugs, but what no one seems to understand was that my drug use wasn't any different from their having a drink or two on a Friday night after work. They might have a few vodkas and tonic and let off a bit of steam. I had a couple of lines of cocaine and did likewise. As I said to my father and my sister's husband, and eventually the therapists of the Cloisters, if cocaine was sold in liquid form, in a bottle, would you complain about me taking it? Well, would you? No, I bet you wouldn't. I was offended by the drug addict allegation because I was nothing like one. Apart from the track marks on their arms, they had dirty hair, constantly seemed cold, did a lot of shoulder hunching, wore cheap sneakers that looked like they'd been bought in Woolworths, and were, as I've already mentioned, thin. I wasn't thin. Although it wasn't for the want of trying. I spent plenty of time on the Stairmaster at the gym, but no matter how much I stairmastered, genetics had the final say. If my father had married a dainty little woman, I might have had a very different life. Very different thighs, certainly. Instead, like my two older sisters, Claire and Margaret, I was doomed for people always to describe me by saying, "She's a big girl." Then they always added really quickly, "Now I'm not saying she's fat." The implication being that if I was fat, I could at least do something about it. "No," they would continue, "she's a fine, big, tall girl. You know, strong." I was often described as strong. It really pissed me off. My boyfriend Luke sometimes described me as magnificent, when the light was behind me and he'd had several beers. At least that was what he said to me. Then he probably went back to his friends and said, "No, I'm not saying she's fat." The whole drug addict allegation came about one February morning when I was living in New York. It wasn't the first time I'd felt as if I was on cosmic.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?